Hello, my name is Andrew Thake from Mines and Money. Delighted to be joined today by Mark Haywood, who's the President and Chief Executive Officer of EDM Resources. Delighted to have you with us today, Mark.
Thank you, Andrew. Great to be here.
Mark, for those who don't know much about EDM Resources, can you tell us a little bit about your company, where you're based, and what you're mining?
Sure. EDM Resources, we're listed on the Venture Exchange with the ticker EDM. We're a Canadian exploration and mining company that has full ownership of the Scotia zinc, lead, and gypsum mine, which is just near the airport in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. The mine essentially presents a near-term cash flow opportunity for a brownfields operation with significant opportunity to expand and develop that base. So we have a technical reports out there. We have a pre-feasibility study which was completed in 2021 with an NPV at 5% of over 225 million. So it's a pretty decent sized operation. But what importantly also has an internal rate of return of essentially 69%, which over the first year, I think it's 3 years of production, we make 55 million in free cash flow. So in summer of 2022, we announced an offtake financing for that, and then our plans to put that in production next year.
And what is Nova Scotia like as a mining jurisdiction?
It's very friendly as a mining jurisdiction. A lot of exploration here. We're surrounded by prospects and also other mines. One of them is the largest gypsum mine in the world, which is next door. And then about 50 kilometers away, there's gold deposits. So it's a pretty mining friendly jurisdiction, although it's a tier 1 jurisdiction. There's environmental measures and controls and normal compliance matters you'd expect in a first world jurisdiction, but we're a permitted operation, and that speaks a lot about our time frame and being able to go into production essentially within 12 months next year.
Sure. And I guess that what makes you quite unique is that I speak to many companies that are mining for zinc and lead, but you're obviously mining for zinc, lead, and gypsum as well.
Correct. Great pickup. It's quite unusual. A lot of mines are zinc and lead and maybe some other silver and gold and things like that. But we're a Mississippi Valley style deposit, which means essentially it was an old beach area, and the zinc and the lead was deposited or essentially replaced in the limestone. And because it's that kind of beach area, you've got above that, you've got what we call as evaporates. Evaporates is like salt, and salt is gypsum, and that is worth something. And because we mine through the gypsum in order to get to the zinc and lead ore body, we can obviously make revenue out of that if it's a decent grade. We had that tested. We had a resource estimation done on it, and we put it into our reserve, and we have about 5 million tons of high grade gypsum. And for some of your listeners who may know the use of gypsum or not, gypsum is commonly used in wallboard. That's obviously an expanding business around the world, a very industrial use of it. So high-grade gypsum is plaster of Paris, is the modding product. So in our financial model, that's worth about $50 million, 50 million Canadian, which is significant input into the value and the robustness of the project. And so essentially gypsum is a byproduct, lead's a byproduct, and zinc is kind of why we're there. But these things all add to the economics of the project, which can make a project quite robust. And that's really the secret of the Scotia Mine, is it's got multiple sources of revenue. It's just near the airport. Logistics are absolutely excellent. We're on all-season highway. We're in the province of Nova Scotia, which means it doesn't get a really bad winter. It still gets a winter, it still gets Canadian winter, but it's shorter, and it's generally the temperatures fluctuate in between 0 and minus a little bit, like maybe -5 or -10. We get the odd down, but essentially it's in that range over winter. So we have maybe 4 or 5 snowfalls, and then a week later they're gone. And so that's kind of unique, being in Atlantic Canada and on the coast. it's certainly made the cost of running an operation much cheaper than if we were mining in the north of Canada. For that reason, yeah. So it's pretty unique. Not only the gypsum, but location. And I've operated mines around the world, and I know that from personal experience, logistics has a big impact on your bottom line, on your cash cost, and that's also one of the biggest advantages. And we're near Halifax, so we don't have to fly people in and out. They can drive to work from Halifax. So another good point.
Yeah. Let's kind of talk a little bit about your management team. First of all, starting with yourself, what's your background?
I have a degree in mining engineering and law. I've like to think I'm the fourth generation in my family in the mining business over many over centuries, and so I've basically been working on a mine site from as soon as I finished university. And so I've been chief mine engineer, mine manager. I've operated equipment. I've been a general manager or director general of many mines through Asia, Australasia, and I've been since I finished on the mine site about 14 years ago. I've been running publicly traded companies in Canada, essentially mining and exploration companies in this kind of space: gold companies, coal companies, zinc, and of course, critical minerals is really where my kind of expertise is now. If you like, on the board level, we have some experienced directors, 3 other directors. Ashworth Mira, he's a proven mining commodities entrepreneur, a lot of years in the business and metals trading mostly. And we have another director, Mark Billings, for quite some time. He's a director of several other companies, like most Canadians. They have a bunch of different companies, and we have Rajesh Sharma, who used to be with Tata, and he's also a very experienced executive, and he's running a company called Van Camp Exploration, which is also a shareholder of EDM.
You just mentioned,
so we've got a good team.
You just mentioned your one of your shareholders. Can you just briefly just talk through who your major shareholders are?
So in terms of institutional investors or shareholders, we have Van Camp Exploration, we have MRI Trading, we have Korea Zinc, and we have Milfam, which is a US-based family office. And in terms of the retail investors, we have Eric Salzberg, who's a Toronto-based investor, the largest individual shareholder. We have, as I mentioned, Ashworth Mira, our chairman. He's the second largest shareholder. And board and management, collectively, we own 25% of the company. So a very big insider position. These guys, these gentlemen, and institutional investors are very supportive of what we're doing, and basically have been there as we advance this project. From 3 years ago, it was basically just an idle, mothballed operation with a market cap basically 3 million, and no money, kind of not going anywhere, mines out of compliance. So in the last 3 years, we've done an incredible leaps forward, not only from permitting side, but raising the profile, rebranding the company, but getting the asset from zero net present value, zero, to over 200 million. So that an achievement, and although we're not recognized heavily in the market yet, and that's a catalyst. I guess maybe you can ask me later, but essentially we're poised for that turn. That turn. We've done all the hard yards. Last 3.5 years has been pretty challenging on a number of different levels, and not including the pandemic.
But the kind of good thing is that you're now sort of in a much more robust and stronger position than you were a few years ago. So what for the next sort of 6 to 18 months? What are the key upcoming catalysts that investors can expect to hear when they look at EDM Resources?
I think over the next 12 months in particular, it's about getting the mine into production. So all the work we're doing this year in terms of finalising provincial and federal approvals, doing geotechnical work and getting the ultimate pit design approved, with the view to going into production sometime next year. or maybe even at the end of this year. So the next talk, we're just waiting on a few things. We're waiting on a strategic investment to come in. But while we're doing that, there's no hurry for that. It's just one of these things that we're checking off in terms of a condition on our financing. Once that's in place, then we're right to go. We have a local workforce from an existing mine that's shut down, and we believe we can tap into basically all of those workers, which are like closer, not that far away from where our operation is. Because I've mentioned we're at the airport, near the airport. It logistically is very good for a workforce to be based in Halifax and then come to the mine. So that's how we see the next 12 months, putting the mine into production, starting our revenue stream. And this makes basically between $10 and $40 million free cash flow over 14 years. So it's a pretty big cash flow. In essence, if you like, the EBITDA is about $17 million per year. So it's a great earner, and we're on the cusp of putting it back into production now.
Well, we really do wish you all the best, not just for 2023, but also beyond as well. Delighted to go and have you on Mines Money TV. This interview was brought to you by Mines Money TV in association with Red Cloud, and that was Mark Haywood, the President and Chief Executive Officer of EDM Resources. Thank you for your time.
Andrew. Thank you.
Resourcing tomorrow, accelerating the energy transition. 100 plus countries represented. And together with government representatives, mining and energy professionals, ESG experts, financial and professional services, industry associations, investors, and consultants, Resourcing Tomorrow will address critical mineral supply, the energy transition, environmental resilience, the circular economy, ESG, our future workforce, AI automation and machine learning, digitalization, mineral processing and plant optimization, exploration and development projects. Have your say in the future of our industry. Join us for Resourcing Tomorrow from 28 to 30 November 2023. Register today